Her image soars 8 stories over downtown Greenville. The only thing bigger, her legacy. One-on-one with Pearly Harris.
With blues in his soul and South Carolina in his heart.
Rock me, baby. Rock me all night long.
A blues legend and South Carolina son, Mack Arnold, tells us how early family struggles and music taught him to love all people.
Plus, she's been called a champion, a coach, survivor, and mom. Dorman High School girls basketball coach Valerie Whiteside is taking us through her journey. Stick around as we celebrate and honor our Black history right here in the Upstate. Thanks for joining us tonight for Honoring Black History, Mind, Body, and Soul.
And you know, we begin tonight with a Greenville legend that towers over the downtown Greenville skyline.
In the heat of segregation, Pearly Harris says she stood, she took it, and she smiled. And she made a promise to her kids that they would have the best school year of their lives. She aimed to change the tide of hatred, turning it into an outpouring of love. If the sheer size of a person's impact could be conveyed in a piece of art,
I called my boys, I said, oh my gosh, it's me on the mural.
then this towering mural in downtown Greenville by Australian artist Guido Van Helten is a true testament to retired Greenville County educator Pearly Harris.
This is huge. I mean, this brings tears to my eyes.
The 8-story piece commemorates the 50th anniversary of desegregation of Greenville schools. So who is this trailblazer seemingly surprised by every accolade she's ever received? Pearly Harris was raised in Saluda, North Carolina.
I didn't have electricity even after I graduated from college. We had just gotten electricity before I went.
The daughter of a Baptist minister, she attended the all-girls Barbara Scotia College, married a Marine.
He decided he loved this area, so we ended up staying here.
So it's always about love. It always boils down to about love. Then settled here in her mother's hometown, Greenville, South Carolina. In Vietnam, while he was away fighting, you were fighting lone battle at home.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
A firefight of segregation and racism. Pearly, after being encouraged to share her talents by a high school teacher,
I knew it was my profession, and I was riding on the back of my high school teacher.
Would enter the world of education, making $150 per month during a tumultuous time in history. Part of what you were doing was not only teaching the kids, you had to educate the parents at the same time. Eventually being the only black teacher in an all-white school.
Because I was that teacher, and I won't use, you know the word, I was that teacher. And the children delighted in saying, we got a teacher this year. And the ugly things they said in the PTA meetings about me in front of my face, what could I do? Nothing. You stand and you take it and you smile. And I went home that night and I decided this will be the best school year these children will ever have.
Pearly honed in on what she cared about the most.
Children are children. We teach hatred. We teach meanness.
Aiming to change that tide of hatred into an outpouring of love.
And the sad part is, I taught them the Negro National Anthem and they didn't know what they were singing and loved it. And loved, lift every voice and sing. They thought that was the prettiest song. And before they left, I told them, I said, that's my anthem for my race.
Pearly's vision wouldn't stop in the classroom.
That's another shock. That when I got the letter from the bishop.
From her volunteerism and unwavering service to St. Mary's Catholic Church, which garnered her the Benemerenti Medal from the Pope, to becoming the first female and African-American chairwoman of the Bon Secours St. Francis Board.
So we're gonna name this whole building. I said, no, you can't do that. He said, oh, yes, we can.
Bon Secours later honored Harris with the Pearly Harris Center for Breast Health. The 85-year-old just got another major surprise, an honorary doctorate of humanities from Furman University, where she also received her master's degree.
My thoughts was, my Lord, what are my parents thinking? What's my husband thinking? And I thought, look at all the people.
She was nominated by a student she had taught over 40 years ago. A Greenville legend whose tenacity has gone far past her nearly 4-decade career in the classroom, an impact on the largest scale.
It's breathtaking. It really is. I can't even explain to you how I feel about it, because it's huge. Most people get their flowers after they die. I'm getting mine before I die.
Flowers for the rose of a community. When asked what she wants to be remembered for,
She gave the best of herself, and she tried to make the world a better place to live in.
I think we can all agree, job well done.
A blues legend and South Carolina son, Mack Arnold, tells us how early family struggles and music taught him to love all people.
Plus, she's been called a champion, a coach, survivor, and mom. Dorman High School girls basketball coach Valerie Whiteside is taking us through her journey.
From cornbread to collard greens to some of the best blues music around. Locally born musician Mack Arnold has been entertaining audiences since the age of 10, and he's always given back. His road was not always easy, but it was always filled with hope and certainly music.
Rock me, baby. Rock me all night long.
Born and raised in South Carolina, that's Mack Arnold, and he was brought up loving music, family, and some great home cooking. After his first taste of the blues at the age of 10, he went on to play in a high school band. He also played with James Brown on piano and worked on set with Soul Train. He had found his way back to South Carolina, though, where Mack Arnold and a plate full of blues was born, along with a whole line of gas can guitars. One of his greatest mentors recognized him at the age of 24, and the great Muddy Waters invited Mack to join his band, helping to shape the electric blues sound that would go on to inspire rock and roll. And growing up here, he had strong connections to family and this land.
My father bought this property that I'm sitting on in 1945, and we've been here since 1945 and try to do the best we can. But my father was a cotton farmer.
This land is still where Mack and his family live after all these years, and he understands the value of this.
We've went through a lot of things to maintain the property and keep possession of the property. So we are now in the Pelzer Registry, historical registry.
His dad saved up money from cotton farming to purchase the land, but it was not an easy road.
They had to stay here on the property to protect the property because my father was warned that he was going to get thrown off the property, and they stayed on the property before the Fool family moved on the property for like about 6 weeks. They had to do a race. They had to do with the Ku Klux Klan at that particular time. A lot of families has lost their properties in the same fashion.
With songs like Swing Me Back Home and Kakalaki Twang, he shows us that he has blues in his soul and South Carolina in his heart.
South Carolina has recognized me more so than any other state except Alabama. I was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in Alabama. I received a doctor's degree from the University of South Carolina. I've been recognized in Greenville, South Carolina through the Greenville Journal.
Mack Arnold was instrumental in using music to break down barriers right here in the South.
Some places we couldn't play because it was segregated. I'm the first musician that had an integrated band in Greenville, so we went through a few things.
Blues connected him with people from all races and walks of life and continues to tell a story.
It has a lot of love with it. Some folk that is not very familiar with the style of music, they think that when you say blues, it's negative. Very live and positive meaning. It talk about how much love that you have.
Music makes us one, he says, and it's almost like a religious experience, gathering crowds and having sold-out shows all the way from South Carolina to Europe. Mack Arnold reminds us that no matter your struggles or different situations, you can always enjoy a tune and connect with someone.
Doesn't matter what color you're on. This type of music it covers everybody and everything. It talks about people that you have known, people that you know, people that has been places, and the outcome of their going that places, it warns you not to do certain things. It tells you the best thing to do. It's just amazing types of music.
Coming up next, it all began with a vision from 23-year-old Hattie Logan Duckett, a center where African-American girls could learn the basics in life. Over 100 years later, the Phyllis Wheatley Center is still going strong. How it all started when we come back. For over 100 years, the Phyllis Wheatley Center has been a constant in the Greenville community. The Phyllis Wheatley Home for Girls began with a vision from 23-year-old Hattie Logan Duckett in 1919. Hattie was a school teacher who observed the need for better opportunities for African-American boys and girls. The center featured sewing lessons, Bible lessons, and self-improvement classes. It didn't take long for them to grow out of their 6-room house. They gained a library, a nursery, and expanded their offerings to the community, even serving as a recreation center during the Great Depression for servicemen stationed at Donaldson Air Force Base. She named the center after a well-known poet, Phyllis Wheatley, who was born an uneducated slave and learned to read and write. Throughout the years, the Phyllis Wheatley Center has adapted to their ever-changing needs in our community and is still a staple in the Greenville community to all. From school-aged children who need help with their homework to senior citizens who need help staying healthy, Hattie Logan Duckett died in 1956, leaving behind a legacy that she will forever be remembered for.
Before 1960, Greenville Library was segregated. There were 2 libraries in operation in downtown Greenville, a whites-only facility located on Main Street, and one designed for African Americans on McBee Avenue. In 1940, a former school building on Main Street was purchased for the library, but only to be used by people who were not African Americans. This library had a collection of over 55,000 books, compared to the Phyllis Wheatley Center and their 11,000 books. In March of 1960, members of the Greenville African American community organized sit-in to raise awareness and to inspire change to the separate but equal policy at the time. In July of 1960, 7 students from the Sterling High School, along with the college freshman, Jesse Jackson, entered the library and were arrested. This led to the filing of a federal lawsuit that would force integration of the Greenville Public Library. On September the 19th, 1960, the dream became a reality, and the library was open to all citizens of Greenville County, no matter the race.
She's been called a champion, a coach, a survivor, and mom. We sat down with the Dorman High School's girls basketball coach, Valerie Whiteside. She takes us through her journey. Take a look. As a young girl, she knew she was good at many different sports and played them all, even cheerleading.
The boys in the neighborhood nicknamed me Pippi Longstocking. So it didn't matter what sport we were playing. It was like, if it was softball, it was like, oh, here comes Val, everybody back up. I was good. But I actually started out as a cheerleader.
After middle school, Valerie went to Chapman High School, where she and her team started with a bang.
My first year playing high school basketball, we won state. And I was a 9th grader.
It was at Chapman where she was a 3-time All-State player. When the time came to choose a college, she chose Appalachian State.
Because it was a D1 school. There were other schools that were interested, like Clemson was interested. Then there was smaller schools that were interested, but I knew that if I went to Clemson, I really wouldn't get to play, much for a couple of years. And at App State, it was also a D1 school too, and I knew that, I would get to play fairly, soon. So I started as a freshman, and for me, it was the best decision ever.
Her instincts were right. Valerie Whiteside is the all-time leading scorer in the history of women's basketball in the Southern Conference. She led App State to consecutive championships in 1987 and 1988, while earning MVP of the tournament both of those years. She graduated college as a 3-time All-American with her degree in communications. Her playing career didn't end at graduation. She went to Europe to play professional ball.
My first year, I played in Switzerland because I graduated App State in December, so I had to go to Europe in the middle of the year. And then I went to Italy, then I landed in Spain, where I stayed 6 years, met my husband there, and then we all went to Portugal to play for another 6 years.
And they traveled and played basketball until her son JJ turned 6.
I wanted him to have the same, I would say, upbringing upbringing as I had. I would tell my husband about how, you know, in our high school, you know, we play for our school. We play basketball for our school, and, you know, all the kids come out and fans come out to the games, and we have marching bands and, you know, cheerleaders, and that's just so much fun, and, you know, just the relationships that you build and the things that you do then, and it's just, you know, it's priceless. And I wanted my son to have that same opportunity.
That letter to Dorman High School.
Honestly, I did my homework. What did I think was the best school for him to go to at that particular time? Where could he reach his dreams? And for me, it was Dorman.
14 years later, she's still at it. During her tenure at Dorman High School, Valerie Whiteside is known for being a champion on the court, but she's also known for being a champion off the court. That mission even more important after she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Until I had breast cancer, I really didn't know anyone who had breast cancer before. It was devastating, you know. For me, the C word was the D word, but I learned quickly that it wasn't. You know, that started something within me. You know, when I first found out, I was blown away because I thought that you had to be sick or you didn't take care of yourself or something for you to have cancer. And I thought to myself, well, I eat good, I eat healthy, you know, I'm on a Mediterranean diet, I exercise every day, I run. I was still playing basketball with, you know, the girls on the team. I lift weights, I do everything, so why would I have cancer? But I did.
She didn't skip a beat after her cancer diagnosis. She knew she had to beat it because she would not let her sons JJ and Keenan grow up without a mom. Valerie continued to coach both of their travel teams. Her son JJ had a dream to play in the NFL, so she did everything she could to stay strong and help him make that dream come true. That included beating cancer. JJ now plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. After the initial shock of her diagnosis wore off, she decided to be an advocate for other women and spread awareness for breast cancer. She teaches others the do's and don'ts that she didn't know.
Or help people deal with it when it happens to them. You know, make sure all these women go out and, you know, get their mammograms, you know, talk with their healthcare providers and do your self-breast examinations. You have to be a triple threat, just like in basketball.
She uses her platform as a basketball coach at Dorman to get her team involved and raise money for local organizations who help our communities dealing with breast cancer. Today, she's enjoying her life as a coach where she is still teaching her girls how to be young ladies.
How you don't have to, you know, be kept in one box, that you can do and be many things. You can wear many hats and while still being a young lady.
Her advice to young girls?
I would say, number one, follow your dreams, because there's going to be so many people that's going to tell you what you can't do. And you've got to only listen to yourself and the people that's going to tell you what you can do, because you can do it. You know, it's going to be hard. You know, the road gets hard. You know, there's going to be many obstacles that may get in your way, but when an obstacle gets in your way, you have to find a way over it, go under it, go around it, go through it, do something to get past it, you know. And there's also, you know, you're going to fall, but it doesn't matter if we fall. What matters is if we get back up.
While we're honoring our local Black history, we can't forget about the music that has come from right here in our own backyard. We're taking you now to the Spartanburg Music Trail, where the Hub City celebrates upstate local music. The tour leads us to Pink Anderson. He was born in Lawrence, South Carolina in 1900, but spent most of his adult years in Spartanburg. Pink sang the blues about greasy greens, blues about his neighborhood, and even blues about women. He began his career in 1918 when he joined a medicine show where he traveled in South as the draw man. He would entertain the crowd before the doc came up to sell the medicine. He traveled with the medicine tour for 28 years, singing his blues, telling jokes, and even throwing in some country ballads. His guitar picking didn't just stay here in the upstate. Heard on jukeboxes across the world, his sound caught the attention of Johnny Cash, and it inspired him to pick up a guitar. His guitar picking was also noticed all the way to England. That's where young Sid Barrett was looking for a title for his band. After hearing Pink Anderson and North Carolina guitar player Floyd Council, he combined the two and named his band Pink Floyd. Mr. Anderson died in 1974 at 74 years old of a heart attack. He's buried in Spartanburg at Lincoln Memorial Garden.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Honoring Black History, Mind, Body, and Soul.
We hope you've enjoyed a brief glimpse into the history right here in our own communities.
A history fueled by hope, rich in soul, and stories that can inspire us all. Good night, and thank you so much for joining us.